Hello and welcome everybody to today's video. We're already at the 4th episode of our 5-episode webcomic crash course series. Time sure flies. This time we'll be talking about storyboarding. I know to some this might sound like the possibly least exciting part. Coming up with an idea, writing the script, picking out exciting backgrounds, and making interesting character designs seems way more fun. But I assure you, this can be one of the most fulfilling parts of the whole webcomic making process if you have the right mindset for it. I would like to start off with explaining why storyboarding is so important to make not just a good, but an amazing webcomic. Your story and characters can be amazing, but if every single panel is just the same rectangle, there's really not much excitement to be had there. A good panel layout will always enhance a story. And it's very noticeable. For example, there's this one old comic of mine, Me and Mr. Wolf, and it has severe issues with boring and impractical paneling, very much due to my storyboarding that I drew for it. If I can find them, I'll put these on screen as well. This was my first time ever seriously making a storyboard, and it shows. Not only did I do it on paper, which is kind of subpar when your comic is digital, but also unfit for my canvas resolution, which we'll talk about later. I always used the storyboard animatics on paper before, so this is of course why I chose this medium. I found it most comfortable, but comfortability is not what we're here for at all. Now is it? Now here's an example of a good panel layout from a manga I've been reading called Hwan Young's Misery. Very interesting story, I can absolutely recommend it for dark romance lovers. Ever since I started reading it, I've been amazed at how well everything flows, and I started looking up to the author for their compositions. Now I strive to be able to make such interesting panels as well. It's not just the panels itself that flow nicely, however, it directly correlates to how the characters feel or how the author wants you to feel reading it. Now you can clearly understand why a good storyboard is important. You don't want to take your readers out of the experience. I always recommend, if you work on comics, that you should also read many comics yourself. No matter what media it is, if you're making it, you should be one of the people who consume such things as well. That's the only way you'll know if what you're making is truly good or not. And the more you read, in the case of comics, the more obvious it is. It's sometimes very easy to tell with certain mediums, such as writing. You start guessing the twist endings to every show you watch. Seems like you must have improved enough to know that would be the expected flow of the story. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about some more practical stuff, like storyboarding styles. I know of two currently. One I used for Me and Mr. Wolf, Great Escape and Rigor Mortis. This is the style in which I had multiple of my pages laid out, minimized, on a much bigger page to keep the aspect ratio. By the way, my canvas aspect ratio is 800 to 10,000 pixels. This way, I can make sure that a lot of stuff is able to fit on one page and it can flow better as a cause of this. After I have them all laid out, I just start sketching everything out in very simple terms, putting in speech bubbles as well, sometimes with keywords, so I know exactly which panel is paired with what dialogue from my script. Here's for example Rigor Mortis' first episode storyboard versus finished pages. As you can see, the storyboard in this style is used as a guide, but not something I follow one-to-one. In this case, you would have to sketch everything again when the time comes to draw the final versions. But it is great for figuring out the flow of a page. The second style is actually something I'm trying out for the first time with Ace of Thieves, an upcoming comic of mine. It is quite interesting. In this one, you make the file with the intention of it being the final version sketch, but still in incredible simple form. You could think about this as a more enlarged version of the first style. You could still view it like you would the previous ones, but you would need to open every single page and put them next to each other in your drawing program, zoomed out. Clip Studio provides a really easy way to do this, however, I don't know about other programs. You would save these as work-in-progress files on your computer, so once you actually go through these and making them final, you can just keep saving on the same file. This is probably something to try a bit later in your career though, once you've already become more comfortable with using different panel styles, and it feels a bit more final than the first storyboarding example, which is why I'm saying this. You can still go for it and try it out if you want to, however, this is just my personal recommendation. Now onto my personal favorite part of the video, paneling styles. I've collected a few I really liked over the years, so this isn't exactly a comprehensive list of paneling styles or anything. It's just my personal findings that I will share with you today. I will use examples from comics I have read, or for some of these, it might be my own comics as well, so I'll just put the credits on the left side of the screen during this portion of the video. You definitely want to avoid repeating frames only slightly different from each other, or maybe even the same frames too many times. It can be good for establishing movement or change in expressions, for example, but it gets boring quick, so you should always try to switch it up, which is what I hope I'll be able to help you with the ideas I'm about to give you. I should preface this by saying these all definitely have varying uses. These are just some of my own notes that I thought they could be used for, or what I've seen them being used for often. First one is a wide frame from end to end. These are often used as establishing shots to let you know the layout of a scene, or to maybe sometimes even fit multiple characters into one shot to show their reactions. Extra wide and slim, often used for impact shots or very cinematic shots. Long, often used to show characters' emotions in more detail. Extra long has varying uses but often used to show impact as well as its extra wide counterpart does. Scenic uses something called a B-roll in filmmaking, I believe, establishing the scene, in this case the background, so no characters. In comics it's very good for showing when a character enters a new environment, or when you don't want to have to draw them every single time as well. Scenic with characters, used to establish the scene or the layout. Rotated slightly, used to show drastic change in characters' emotional state. Could be anything from surprise to anger and so on. Colorful particles, not really a panel in the literal sense. Could be good for when characters are talking a lot, but you want to get a break from drawing them repetitively looking at each other. Defined bottom, blank background. Very good for putting emphasis on a certain character's reaction. Another version of this is the blank background but full body character. However, this one is often used to show off a character's outfit. Defined bottom, tilted or straight, and fading from white on the top. Very cool looking and popular for the scroll comic format. Can be used for many things, but mostly it looks cool and feels cool, so... Upside down to midpoint fade. Very specific example coming in. These are from Juan Young's Misery. As I said, I love the author's style, so I noted a lot down. No general uses that I personally know of, but again, looks very, very cool. 90 degrees tilt long shot. Incredible impact shot. No general uses that I know of, but once again, looks and feels very cool. Intertwining upside down to normal view. Once again, no general uses, but if I had to assign one, definitely paralleling feelings or characters could work really, really well here. Upside down frame. My notes just say it looks very cool, so we'll go with that. Although it is very unusual to use this, could be great for transitions or instilling discomfort in the readers as well. Very dramatic, so for action or dancing scenes, I could also see it. Halfway cut off, then continued. Really hope I find a good example for this, because this is actually very common. This is used to accentuate certain parts. Maybe the character is holding something in their hand, but you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. Doorway frame. Extremely specific example once again. Don't know if you could use it for anything other than really just the door being opened, but for that it can be way more impactful than just actually opening a door. Smoke/water or any substance that looks cool being dragged out in a certain direction also works. Great for transitions. I wish I actually provided myself with visual examples when I was writing the notes just for myself, because now that it's also in a video, I will have to go look and find examples for each of them. Well, anyway, paneling isn't really that difficult if you just take it a tiny bit more seriously. It's just important to keep an eye out for these things when you're reading the comics you personally enjoy as well. Next time you'll know what to look out for. Over time it'll come more naturally. That's it for today's video. I hope I was able to help, and if I was, please do leave a like and subscribe. Also, be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Next episode will be the last part of this series, in which I'll be walking you guys through my comic page making process, providing some extra tips and tricks along the way. If you want to see art from me that doesn't make it into videos, you can follow my Instagram and Twitter at Eriss_VT. If you'd like to read my webcomics, you can find me on Webtoon by searching Eriss.png. I've just recently released my newest comic, Flying School Reboot, so if you guys could check it out, that would mean the world to me. But all the links will be in the description down below. I'll see you guys again next time, but until then, bye bye!